Totally.
None of it's going to last forever.
That's right.
What was Layne Staley like? He's such an interesting figure. I am a huge fan of his, and he just has this. No one like him. I have no idea what he was like or anything, but he has this like such an interesting voice and energy, and just like a tragic story, obviously. But
Yeah.
what was he like to work with?
I mean, my memory of him, and so I met him in about 1993 when the Screaming Trees opened for Alice in Chains. So we were, Sweet Oblivion had come out and Dirt came out within a few months of each other. And we did a whole huge, almost a world tour, all of Europe, all of North America, Australia, and then we all kind of did our own things. And so we spent, 9 months on the road.
Wow.
And then when we became friends, and I was already kind of friends with McCready, because McCready would come see the Screaming Trees, and he would sit right behind my drums. Just like, you can't see him, but he's back there, behind the drum riser.
You can't see him, but you can feel him.
Well, he's not a huge guy either, but he'd just be back there like rocking out behind the drums at some of our shows. And so he called me and he said, he's like, I want to do this side thing with you and Layne, and there's this bass player that I met in rehab, and I think we can do something, something kind of bluesy and cool and different from our other bands. And so that became Mad Season. But I already knew Layne, and Layne had this, he was great because he was like, he had a very youthful, we were 25 at the time, 26. We're still really young.
But back then, 26 actually seemed like old, because it was supposed to be done by 27.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
This relative age thing.
Yeah.
But he had this he's super funny, great sense of humor, like very lighthearted, and he was like a really good dude, he was cool. And I remember at those shows, every show we played together was sold out. You could not buy a ticket.
Right.
And there were always kids out front that wanted to get in, and Layne would give his guest list to those kids that couldn't get in.
Wow.
Those were his guests, were the kids like on the street trying to get a ticket.
That's awesome.
And so he would do that, and I just remember laughing a lot on the bus. Sometimes he'd ride on our bus, and we'd all be together backstage. But that's all we saw was the inside of the bus and the backstage, because we were driving so far every night after every show. Like, we never had time off. So then when we got into the studio to do Mad Season, he was really happy to be there to do something a little different, play with different people. And it was a very light up experience, and we were also sober at the time.
Oh, really?
Everybody
was sober?
McCready got sober. That's why he was out of Pearl Jam. The bass player was in rehab.
That's where they met. Yeah.
But
I was sober too. Right. I had gotten off that tour, and I was like, man, I need to change my life too. I really do. And Layne was too.
Did you go into a program, or
I didn't. And
rehab or
no
rehab?
I didn't do rehab.
I never really did either. I would just rehab my life. And I would go to meetings all the time, every day. Like I could rehab myself.
Yeah,
but it would some can. But it would definitely be like I would make a decision to change everything in my life.
Yeah, it is an internal decision. You make the decision, and then the doing of it is not as hard. There's still challenging moments, but
absolutely,
you make the internal decision. Like, I need to change who I am and how I'm living my life. And then it begins. Then a different path unfolds for you.
That's right.
So we made that record, and we were sober, and then we started the Above record, and that came out in 95. And then we started working on a second album that, we had a lot of songs. It was close to 20 songs. And,
just like us, man.
Just like us. And but Layne just he relapsed, and he wasn't able to do it, and so we never finished the second album. Yeah,
it's too bad.
Yeah, and Baker did as well. So lost two guys from that band.
Yeah,
and it starts to really affect you after a while, because we all had friends that passed away, and I wasn't necessarily in a band with them, but there were like two other bands that I played in that lost somebody, And so after a while you see this pattern, and you realize, man, there's a lot of self-destruction in this particular place, in this city, in this region. And you have to change your life, or a similar thing can happen to you.